Imagine, you may be traveling on a slippery road when, without warning, your vehicle begins sliding across several lanes of oncoming traffic. You know that such things happen. They may even have happened to you on a prior occasion. You know that they happen to other people all the time. Nevertheless, this accident was not in your plans, which is why it is called an accident. In principle, it could be plotted as a cause-and-effect confluence of circumstances, although you would never be able to trace them to their originating source, not even if you went back to the beginning of time. It might occur to you, though, that the responsibility for your accident to come lay with a friend or relative who called and asked you to come over and lend a hand in some fix-it project, because you would not even be out of the house except for that untimely request. Yet you would be just as right to hold other factors responsible: the slippery road on which you were driving, the weather that made the road slippery, all the things that determined the weather, the length of time you spent looking in your clothes closet for the shoes that would be most proper to wear for the fix-it project in question, that interval of perfect extent which made sure you would be just where you needed to be so that you would not be too early or too late to become involved in a vehicular misadventure. But whatever the proximate or remote causes of your vehicular misadventure might have been, you had an idea of how things were to happen that day, as you do every day, and spinning out of control in your car while other vehicles try to circumvent a collision with you was not on your schedule. 1 second ago you had a firm grip on things, but now you are veering toward who knows where. You are not filled with horror, not yet, as you careen along the pavement that is slick with rain or snow glistening in the moonlight, the wind wailing and shadows scattering. At this point, everything is all strangeness. You have been taken to a different place from where you were just a moment before. Then it begins. This can't be happening, you think, if you can think at all, if you are anything more than a whirlwind of panic. In reality, though, anything can happen now. This is the whispering undercurrent that creeps into your thoughts. Nothing is safe, and nothing is off limits. All of a sudden, something was set in motion that changed everything. Something descended upon you that had been circling above your life from the day you were born. And for the first time, you feel that which you have never felt before, the imminence of your own death. There is no possibility for self-deception now. The paradox that came with consciousness is done with. Only horror is left. This is what is real. This is the only thing that was ever real, however unreal it may have seemed. Of course, bad things happen, as everyone knows. They have always happened and always will happen. They are part of the natural order of things. But this is not how we would have it. This is not how we think things should be for us. This is how we think things should not be. And all supernatural horror, as we remember, derives from what we believe should be and should not be. Yet might we have avoided this horror by warding off our belief in what should be and what should not be, by believing only in what is? No, we could not. We were doomed to hold this belief and to suffer what looms out of it. What doomed us, if one will forgive another imperious repetition of this theme, was consciousness, parent of all horrors, and author of all we believe should be and should not be. While consciousness brought us out of our coma in the natural, we still like to think that, however aloof we are from other living things, we are not in essence wholly alienated from them. We do try to fit in with the rest of creation, living and breathing like any other animal or vegetable. It is no fault of ours that we were made as we were made, experiments in a parallel being. This was not our choice. We did not volunteer to be as we are. We may think that being alive is all right, especially when we consider the alternative, but we think about it as infrequently as possible, for this very thought raises the spirits of the dead and all the other freaks of nature. No other life forms know they are alive, and neither do they know they will die. This is our curse alone. Without this hex upon our heads, we would never have withdrawn as far as we have from the natural, so far and for such a time that it is a relief to say what we have been trying with our all not to say. We have long since fallen from nature's arms. Everywhere around us are natural habitats, but within us is the shiver of startling and dreadful things. Simply put, we are not from here. If we vanished tomorrow, no organism on this planet would miss us. Nothing in nature needs us. We are like Mainlander's suicidal god. Nothing needed him either, and his uselessness was transferred to us after he burst out of existence. We have no business being in this world. We move among living things, all those natural puppets with nothing in their heads. But our heads are in another place, a world apart where all the puppets exist not in the midst of life, but outside it. We are those puppets, those human puppets. We are crazed mimics of the natural prowling about for a peace that will never be ours. And the medium in which we circulate is that of the supernatural, a dusky element of horror that obtains for those who believe in what should be and should not be. This is our secret quarter. This is where we rave with insanity on the level of metaphysics, fracturing reality and breaking the laws of life. Deviations from the natural have whirled around us all our days. We kept them at arm's length. Abnormalities we denied were elemental to our being. But, absent us, there is nothing of the supernatural in the universe. We are aberrations, beings born undead, neither one thing nor another, or two things at once. Uncanny things that have nothing to do with the rest of creation, horrors that poison the world by sowing our madness everywhere we go, glutting daylight and darkness with incorporeal obscenities. From across an immeasurable divide, we brought the supernatural into all that is manifest. Like a faint haze, it floats around us. We keep company with ghosts. Their graves are marked in our minds, and they will never be disinterred from the cemeteries of our remembrance. Our heartbeats are numbered, our steps counted. Even as we survive and reproduce, we know ourselves to be dying in a dark corner of infinity. Wherever we go, we know not what expects our arrival, but only that it is there. With eyes that see through a translucent veil shimmering before us, we look at life from the other side. There, something escorts us through our days and nights like a second shadow that casts itself into another world and fastens us to it. Leashed to the supernatural, we know its signs and try to tame them by desensitization and lampoonery. We study them as symbols, play games with them. Then an eerily hued light bathes them, and they become real in a peculiar modality. The grinning skull, the curving scythe, the moldy headstone, all the dark creatures of the earth and air, every memento mori we have hidden within us. These skeletons of ours, when will they come out and show themselves? They groan more loudly with each passing year. Time breezes by with chilling haste. Is the child in that old photograph really an erstwhile version of you, your little hand waving farewell? The face of that child is nothing like the face you have now. That child's face is now melding with the blackness behind you, before you, around you. The child is waving and smiling and fading as your car keeps skidding toward your abruptly curtailed future. Bye-bye. Then another face appears. It has displaced the one you are used to seeing when your rearview mirror goes crooked, as it has now, and confronts you. You cannot look away, because the other face is lit up like a full moon, which both terrifies and fascinates you. And nothing about it looks natural. It seems rigid, the face of something that belongs in a toy chest. The face is smiling, but too much and too long to be real. and its eyes do not blink. The scene shifts moment by moment. People, places, and things appear and disappear. You appeared as others expected, but not as you chose. You will disappear as if you had never been, having taken your turn in this world. You always told yourself that this was the natural way of things, and that you could submit to it because you belonged to nature, malignantly useless nature, which coughed you up like a little phlegm from its great lungs. Yet the supernatural has cleaved to you from the beginning, working its oddities into your life while you waited for death to begin beating on your door. It has not come to save you, but to bring you into its horror. Perhaps you hoped to make it through this horror that sat like a gargoyle upon your life. Now you find there is no way through. Only seconds are left, each one strangling you a little more tightly. Incantations are spoken all around. They have lost their power. The living and the dead jabber inside you. You cannot understand them. Dreams become more lustrous than memories. Darkness is shoveled over dreams. Those unblinking eyes are still gleaming in the mirror, the eyes of that face, smiling too much and too long. And you can feel your own face smiling too, your eyes not blinking. Now that secret you never wanted to know comes into your head, that you were made as you were made and manipulated to behave as you behaved. And as this secret comes into your head, the smile of that face in the mirror pushes up at its edges. So does yours, doing as it is bidden. Both faces at once are smiling the same smile. It widens past all sane proportion. At last, a long-restrained voice cries out, "What is this life?" But only silence answers, and it mocks every mad hope you ever held. No self now, consciously speaking. No feeling your old self or new self. False imaginings if you think about it. Self-conscious nothings everywhere you look. No one to hear you weep or scream, making a go of it on your own, bye-bye. No arms of nature, abandoned on the doorstep of the supernatural, minds full of flagrantly joyless possibilities. A real blunder that was, the human tragedy. No reality to speak of. Nobody here but us puppets, contradictory beings, mutants who embody the contorted logic of a paradox. No immortality, ordinary folk and average mortals coming and going, can't stay long, got an appointment with non-existence, no alternative to consider. Being alive was all right while it lasted, so they say. No life story with a happy ending to tell, only a contrivance of horror, then nothingness, and nothing else. No free will to live, no redemption by a will to die. How depressing. No philosophies to peddle, pessimism a no-sale, optimism had to close its doors, too wicked to pass code. No meanings or mind games, repressional mechanisms broke down, self-deception shuttered its windows. No awakening from a dream within a dream, mutation of consciousness, parent of all horrors. Best not mess with it, extinction looking better all the time. No more pleasure, what there was of it, a few crumbs left by chaos at feast. Still a good supply of pain, though. No praiseworthy incentives, just bowel movement pressures, potato-mashing relativism. No euthanasia, bad for the business of life, you're on your own there. But watch out for the eternal return, most horrible idea in the universe. No loving God, omnipotence off duty, and omniscience on leave, the deity he dead. The horror. Even the skies of spring and the flowers of summer must ever afterward be poison. Blame it on the piecing together of dissociated knowledge. No compassionate Buddha, body snatchers got him, heard tell, or some kind of thing, maybe next lifetime. No good versus evil formulas around here. Azathoth running the show, human beings a mistake or a joke, something pernicious making a nightmare of our world. No being normal and real, the uncanny coming at you full speed, startling and dreadful. No ego death, enlightenment by accident. No way out of harm's way, better never to have been, worst saved for last. No last Messiah, buried in the fingernails of midwives and pacifier makers, gone the way of Messiahs past. No bleakness either, a failure indeed. No terror management by isolation, anchoring, distraction, sublimation. No tragedies to read or to write, death kept at a safe distance past the vanishing point down the road. No escape routes into a useless bliss, useless existence, malignantly so. What now? Now there is only that unnaturally spreading smile, a great gaping abyss where blackness reaches out to blackness, nothing. Then the sense of being swallowed. The story is done, the plot complete. Endgame. To contest Zapf's philosophy, or any philosophy like it, would be as facile as to contest that of any other philosopher whose reasoning does not suit your predilections. If his analysis of human existence appears secure in a certain light, it may be flouted with little exertion by anyone thus motivated. Zapf did not discover the New World, with a handful of dirt to prove it. He was someone who thought he had worked out why humankind should go extinct, knowing that we would never make that choice, whatever he and his last Messiah had to say. Whether we are sovereign or enslaved in our being, what of it? Our species will still look to the future and see no need to abdicate its puppet dance of replication in a puppet universe where the strings pull themselves. What a laugh that we would do anything else, or could do anything else. That our lives might be a paradox and a horror would not really be a secret too terrible to know for minds that know only what they want to know. The hell of human consciousness is only a philosopher's bedtime story we can hear each night and forget each morning when we awake to go to school or to work or wherever we may go day after day after day. What do we care about the horror of being insufferably aware we are alive and will die, the horror of shadows without selves enshrouding the earth, or the horror of puppet heads bobbing in the wind and disappearing into a dark sky like lost balloons? If that is the way you think things are, go shout it from the rooftops and see where it gets you. We are staying put, but you can go extinct if you like. We can make more little puppets like you, but we do not call them that. We call them people who have indivisible selves and stories that are nothing like yours. Being somebody is rough, but being nobody is out of the question. We must be happy. We must imagine Sisyphus to be happy. We must believe because it is absurd to believe. Day by day, in every way, we are getting better and better. Positive illusions for positive persons. They shoot horses, don't they? But as for shooting ourselves, ask Gloria Beatty, ask Michelstetter, ask Weininger, ask Hemingway. But do not ask Meinlander or Bjornbu, who hanged themselves, and do not ask Jean Amery, author of Suicide, a Discourse on Voluntary Death, who made his exit with a drug overdose. Amery survived Auschwitz, but he did not survive his survival. No one does. With our progenitors and the world behind us, we will never hold this life to be malignantly useless. Almost nobody declares that an ancestral curse contaminates us in utero and pollutes our existence. Doctors do not weep in the delivery room, or not often. They do not lower their heads and say, "The stopwatch has started." The infant may cry if things went right, but time will dry its eyes. Time will take care of it. Time will take care of everyone until there are none of us to take care of. Then all will be as it was before we put down roots where we do not belong. There will come a day for each of us, and then for all of us, when the future will be done with. Until then, humanity will acclimate itself to every new horror that comes knocking, as it has done from the very beginning. It will go on and on until it stops, and the horror will go on, with generations falling into the future like so many bodies into open graves. The horror handed down to us will be handed down to others like a scandalous heirloom. Being alive, decades of waking up on time, then trudging through another round of moods, sensations, thoughts, cravings, the complete gamut of agitations, and finally flopping into bed to sweat in the pitch of dead sleep or simmer in the phantasmagorias that molest our dreaming minds. Why do so many of us bargain for a life sentence over the end of a rope or the muzzle of a gun? Do we not deserve to die? But we are not obsessed by such questions. To ask them is not in our interest, nor to answer them with hand on heart. In such spirit, might we not bring to an end the conspiracy against the human race? This would seem to be the right course, the death of tragedy in the embrace of non-existence. Overpopulated worlds of the unborn would not have to suffer for our undoing what we have done, just so that we might go on as we have all these years. That said, nothing we know would have us take that step. What could be more unthinkable? We are only human beings. Ask anybody.